Over the past several years, we have seen an explosion of high-quality small form factor Mini-ITX cases. If you're looking for a compact case, now is a great time. Case-by-Case Design looks to become the next contender in that field with their newly released MI-6. All right, so let's see what we have here. Popping open the box. It's a lot lighter, at least from first glance, than a lot of the other cases that I've tested, which doesn't really mean much. But it comes all nice and wrapped up. Certainly get a nice little card here. MI-6 computer case, serial number, tech everything, and thanks from Fred. Very cool. Oh, and on the back there, there's kind of a build order. It looks like a hard drive tray, some slight instructions there for how to assemble there. So pretty cool. All right. Tape open. Very, very nice. Wow, this is actually pretty light. It feels sturdy, but it's definitely lighter than I was expecting it to be. So here we have the case, looking very nice. Give you a quick overview. On the left side, you see a nice cutout here for ventilation. Same thing kind of on the right, but it's a little shorter. It's about half the length there. On the top, we've got more ventilation. It's all the same nice pattern, so it's very consistent and looks good. Around back, you see your cutout for your motherboard, I/O there, your GPU, and your PSU down at the bottom here. And on the bottom, we have more ventilation. So there's some, looks like what are some fan mounts there. I guess your GPU exhaust would go there, or intake, and some nice feet. These are nice feet. They feel like they're actually metal with soft rubber on the bottom there, so that's really nice. You also see your power button there, a Vandal switch, which is really cool, and your hard drive or I guess your hard drive bracket screw there. This is a nice thumb screw. And around front, there's nothing. So it's clean, nice and clean. I think it looks great. One of the best looking cases I've seen in a while. You've got the nice silver accent that goes around the top here that kind of highlights the rest of the case. The all black finish that goes around. These nice thick screws here. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. So 6 screws in total around the top and side. So that's not that many. So it should be fairly easy to disassemble and build with. The build quality feels good. It's not the thickest case I've ever dealt with, but it is thick enough. It's definitely thick and sturdy feeling enough for what kind of components would be going in here. So here we have the MI-6 next to the Laser LZ7 and the Logic Supply MC600, 2 compact cases with similar styles. As you can see, it's going to be taller than most compact cases, or most of these ultra compact small form factor cases. The horizontal cases obviously are going to be much slimmer and wider. You can see it's significantly wider, about 2, almost 3 times as wide there. And then the LZ7 is kind of in the middle in terms of height and width. It's about 2 times as wide as that as well, as you can kind of see there. Slide that for you, so you get a nice width comparison there, and height as well. So it's kind of in between. It's much more slim and narrow than pretty much any case that you're going to find, but it is also significantly taller. But it's also not as deep in terms of depth. Let's take a look at that as well. So it's pretty much standard, par for the course in terms of depth. Most of these cases are going to be similar depth because that's the length or the width of the motherboard. So they're going to all be similar there, but a good size case. If you're limited with height for some reason, I don't know why you would be, but this is not going to be a great option. But other than that, it is an excellent option that should fit pretty much anywhere. All right, so I'll take the top screws off first. These are pretty shallow, so it doesn't require a ton of unscrewing there, which is nice. The top panel comes off nice and easy, real simple, no problems there. so the front just slides off. It is one piece, and it even has some nice padding in the front there. Looks like some dampening pads, so when it bumps up against this front cage, there's not any vibrations or scratching, which is a nice little touch. So I'll set that to the side. So here's kind of the internal frame that you get here. Everything's nice and padded, I see. So let's slide some of this stuff out. So pop that out. Some protective cardboard there. And it looks like we have our screws and manual, so on and so forth here. So here is your first hard drive bracket. Very nice there. And here's the second hard drive bracket. So you get two 2.5-inch hard drive brackets. So that'll be very handy. And it looks like a box with accessories and screws and stuff like that. So taking a look at the internals, we have what appears to be two separated bays. This will be the side where your motherboard sits. Very nice and open, nothing really to see here. You have your PCI ribbon cable connector that would attach to the PCI slot there and go around back. Flipping it over here. Your GPU sits nestled right here, so it accommodates Mini-ITX cards similar to the GTX 1080 Mini that I reviewed. It does not fit the Zotac 1080 Mini or Zotac 1080 Ti Mini, so you're gonna have to get either the Gigabyte version or 1070s. There are several 1070s from other companies as well. In the bottom here, you get a nice space for your SFX power supply and also a space for a 92mm fan here. So the Noctua Slim 92mm fan is definitely going to be the one I'm opting for. That's probably the best on the market and a great fan that definitely should pump some cool air into the system. So really nice here. Obviously your hard drives get mounted to this sidewall here next to the motherboard, so we'll have to test that out and see how that goes, but it looks like it's going to be a fairly easy case to build in. I'm not anticipating any issues or hiccups. It looks pretty straightforward. In the packaging, you get this nice little box here. You can see the kind of subtle logo, the MI-6 on there. Really nice touch there, cardboard box, but inside you get a bunch of treats. So you have the MI-6 logo there, a stick-on 3M logo, really nice. Additional screws here, more screws, and even more screws, all labeled SSD, all that good stuff, so they're labeled nice and easy. A strip of tape, so if you need more tape there, nice. Zip ties, some nice mini zip ties, awesome, and some additional zip ties there as well. So you get a nice little care package of useful items, so you shouldn't be short for anything that you need when you're doing a build in this case. Another great thing about this case is the hard drive bracket. So you have a 2.5-inch SSD there. Here's your hard drive bracket. Instead of making it complicated, you take these little thumb, I don't know if you call them screws or bumpers, I don't know what you'd call them really, but they have hex heads that you can kind of screw in here. So I'll just do 2 of them so you can kind of get a quick idea of how it works. And you screw them on the side. This is one of the coolest hard drive installation brackets I've seen to this point. So nice and easy, screw those in. Comes with a little hex guy. You can tighten them up, make sure they're on there. You do it on all 4. You take your drive here and you just pop them in. So this has little holes there on each side. Instead of having to do a complex, you just slide it in. Nice and easy. So you do that on all 4 and it sits comfortably in there. And then this has mounts that you slide onto the side of the case. Super simple, super smart way to do it. I really like that. I hope that more manufacturers come up with easy solutions like that you can kind of pop your drives in and out of, no issues. Okay, so now we have all the components. I have my old system that I built in. I just basically am going to transfer it into this case here. It's my LZ7 system. If you want to see the full components, I list them in the description. Also, I'll put them in the article on the website, but long story short, it's an 8700K and a 1080 Mini with SF450. I do have a Noctua 92mm slim fan, but I'm probably going to try both hard drive brackets first, and 2 Samsung Evo 850s, as well as it has a 960 for a boot drive and an Intel 600p for a scratch disk. are with the system complete. See, I've got the unobstructed CPU cooler, the power supply, hard drive 1 there, hard drive 2 in the slot here, cable mess kind of junky there, your PCIe card slider or adapter, I guess you would call it. Here's what the back looks like. Nice. And then the GPU side, a little less going on here, but you see the GPU, very nice, full ventilation there once again. You can see the second hard drive there as well. So, and there's the front. It's got some cutouts so you can connect up your hard drives and stuff, all that good stuff. So let's get the shroud on and see how it works. So my initial configuration had the second hard drive bracket installed at the bottom here, like so. But I found that the temperatures I was getting on the CPU were a little bit warm at load, even running the 8700K at around 4.5 or 4.6 gigahertz. So I wanted to see if popping in the fan would boost up the temp or lower the temperatures. So I'm going to test out this configuration, and hopefully this will be a better performing setup. There's also a way you can slide 2 drives in here, or you can have 2 configured this way. There's some kind of demos or examples on the website that I'll link to in the bottom or the description, but I'm going to test this configuration out, see how it works. Acoustic performance is an important thing to consider when building in any compact case. The MI-6 did an adequate job. I wouldn't say that it's the best or the worst, pretty similar to a lot of the more compact cases that you'll see out there. Whatever components you put in are going to affect the noise. If you're gonna run a fan in the base, that's obviously gonna add more noise than it would if you're not, so choose your components wisely. We're gonna take a listen. First up, we'll do idle, then gaming, then at 100% load, CPU and GPU. When I first saw the design of this case, I was very excited about the cooling potential. Having all that ventilation, especially over the CPU, should be pretty big in terms of keeping temperatures down. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case in practice. Running an overclocked 8700K, while I know that is a pretty heavy stress test, it definitely isn't the case that you would use for that. Now, the temperatures were solid. They weren't anything crazy, and they're very comfortable, but I wouldn't recommend overclocking your CPU, as I was getting immediately into the high 90s and hitting TJ Max at 100 fairly quickly at 4.7 and above gigahertz. Now, dropping it down to about 4.5, the stock settings, or 4.3, where an 8700 would be, you're perfectly in the comfortable range of CPU temperatures. One thing to note on temperatures, I am using a Noctua NHU12S, which pulls air from the case and pushes it out instead of pulling air from the outside and pulling it into the case. In this configuration, I think pulling air in would be a better configuration or a better method to use. Using a cooler that does that probably would see drop temperatures as long as it's a good cooler. I have some top-down coolers that might be able to do the trick with an 8700K in this configuration, and I will be adding some of that data to the article on the website, so look out for that in the future. As good as this case is, there are still some issues that I ran into. When the side panels meet the top, there is a little bit of flex in that spot. There's no support really for that entire panel, so if you're grabbing the case, picking it up, moving it, you will feel a little flex. It bounced right back. It wasn't permanent or anything like that, but something to be aware of. Now, the biggest issue I found with this case was that the back panel where your GPU meets the case sticks out a little too far, and if you have thicker cables, like I have pretty thick, robust DisplayPort cables, and I couldn't get them to plug all the way in. I couldn't use specific cables. I had to find a narrow HDMI cable, which isn't ideal. So unless you have really thin cables for everything, a lot of them probably won't fit. Now, that is a design issue that really probably needs to be addressed. I guess you could just cut out a little slot there, but you shouldn't really have to do that. That's a little disappointing. I also found that after long sessions, the case would become heat soaked. Now this is pretty common with aluminum cases. They tend to act like heat sinks, really large heat sinks, and absorb heat. So that's not really a big issue, but if you're running a very hot CPU, it definitely can limit the cooling potential over the long term. Well, I didn't find any of those issues to be deal breakers. I just wanted you guys to be aware. Overall, I was left impressed with the MI-6. It is a very, very nice compact case with premium materials. Build quality was excellent. Craftsmanship was excellent. It definitely deserves its $210 price point. While GPU cooling was adequate, CPU cooling is not the best in terms of compact cases. There are some that can handle a little more beefy CPUs or higher overclocks. I would say this is probably a system that would be perfect for like an i5 gaming rig or just a i7 or Ryzen 7 that's not going to be overclocked to the max. If you're looking to do a build in this case, I would recommend picking up custom cables. The nest of wires that accumulates in the bottom, especially if you're using hard drives, is pretty thick, and it can be hard for a fan to push any air into the case without creating a ton of noise. But overall, I really liked the case. I thought it looked excellent on the desk and performed very well. If you want to learn a little bit more, Case by Case Design has some how-to guides, some diagrams for the hard drives, and also some videos that make it a little easier to see exactly how to do installs and where everything goes, so on and so forth. So I'll link to that on their website, as well as I'll link to the article on my website, the written review, if you want to learn a little bit more about the case. You can find all the product you saw here today in the description below. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you liked the video. I'm Jay. This is Tech Everything. I'll see you next time.